Well, it's a lovely sunny day here in Kent, the home of Kelsey Media, and we thought it's the perfect opportunity for a drive in a couple of custard-coloured convertibles. You'll be familiar with both of these cars, including this Mazda MX5.
I bought this car at auction last year, paid a little bit under £1,000 for it. It was a project car for our title Classics Monthly, and it's seen a fair bit of action. We've done a lot to it, but it hasn't been used for a while, so we're hoping it starts and it drives okay today.
And what we've got here is the Mk3 Toyota MR2. We initially bought it as a project car, maybe something for Retro Cars magazine, and that never really happened. So then the idea was to pair the two together for some sort of project car shootout for Fast Car magazine. And the idea is they were going to be fettled and modified and then taken to various car shows around the UK in 2020, which obviously hasn't gone according to plan for fairly obvious reasons. While we wait for the event season to open up, maybe in 2021 and beyond, we thought, let's pitch the two together and see which one is best.
If you could ever call an open-top two-seater sensible, this Mazda MX-5 is very much the sensible of this pair of cars. Being the Mk2 MX-5, the NB, it's got a bigger boot. They managed to achieve that by putting the battery a little bit lower. It's got a glass rear window, and it's generally just got much more space inside than the MR2, which doesn't really even have a boot at all. So you can use this car, you can use it for weekends away, you can use it for your shopping. As long as you only need two people, there's pretty much no sort of daily use that you couldn't make of it. So the big difference between the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 MX-5s is the lack of the pop-up headlights on this Mark 2. Mazda had to discontinue those to meet crash test safety requirements and also pedestrian safety requirements. The front end is actually stronger on the Mark 2. Trouble is the front end also rusts more on the Mark II. I've always liked the Mark II MX-5. I remember having one on press loan when they first came out in '97 and thinking it was a car that addressed all the very minor shortcomings of the Mark I and just improved the whole package massively. A little bit more rigid, a little bit more practical, and great fun to drive. And I think the Mark II is generally reckoned to be a little bit easier to drive fast as well, just on the limit. But this one, I've never really liked it much. I don't know why, I've never really gelled with it. I think it's because it's the 1.6, which is a little bit down on power compared to the 1.8, and you do notice that actually. And this one's quite a basic spec too. It's got wind-up windows and things like that. But you could change all that. There are so many MX-5 specialists and MX-5 breakers around the place. Right now, these Mark IIs really are at the bottom of their value curve. They can't fall any further. You'll get a decent example for 1,500 to 3,000 perhaps, and the 3,000 really will be a nice car. Or if you fancy a project, you'll get one for less than £1,000. They're easy to work on. Anything except bodywork really, and parts availability is superb. You get any selection of used or new parts. I think my main problem with this car is its sheer lack of go. It just doesn't have the sparkle I'm used to from an MX-5. Oh, come on. It doesn't really want to rev, and it doesn't have any torque either. The MR2, leave it for dead, I reckon.
Now, I love the Toyota MR2, the Mark I. I've got really fond memories of a friend of my mum's had one in white, and it was just fantastic. I loved the sort of spaceship styling. I loved the sort of funky dashboard and everything. I just loved everything about it. The Mark II just jettisoned everything that was good about the original car. It had just grown in length, width, and crucially, weight. It was much heavier, like 200 plus kilos heavier. So of course it was really refreshing when, towards the back end of the 90s, Toyota brought out the Mark III version. And crucially, the dimensions of this car are very much on par with the Mark I original. And what that means is it means that in terms of how agile and nippy it feels, it's just on point. It's fantastic. It feels alive, slightly raw. It's got sort of cheeky, scrappy-do type sort of tendencies. It doesn't matter whether you're going through a small town like this where you sort of feel you can nip and bob and tuck and weave through traffic. It can do all of those things. There's not a lot of comfort about this car, and that probably is one of the downsides. You know, if this is a car that you want to use daily, it really lacks anything in the way of practicality. This is unapologetically a pleasure-seeking car. This is not about going to B&Q on a Sunday. It defies belief, really. Something as modern and as capable and as stylish and as distinctive as this can be had from as little as £1,000. We should be driving more cars like this, not kind of mundane hatchbacks. If you've got space in your life for a second car, then why not consider one of these instead? Well, Paul, nice sunny drive. But the real question is, which one of these would you take home?
Well, you know, I've surprised myself today. I've always liked the Mk2 MX5. I remember having one on press loan when they first came out and thinking what a great improvement it was over the Mark 1, which wasn't itself a bad car, was it? It's just a little bit more practical, and I always found it easier to drive hard. But over the years, my opinion's changed a little bit, and after driving these cars today, I think my vote goes to the MR2. It's cracking fun. It's a little feisty roller skate of a thing, and I think it's more fun than the Mk2 MX5, which is, well, it's a little bit too much of a sensible choice these days, I think.
I really agree with you, Paul. I think the Mark 3 MR2 is just such huge fun, and in many ways it's got the same characteristics as the Honda CRX Coupe that we've got on fleet. You know, it's frenetic, it's fun, it's agile, whereas the NB generation MX5, it's kind of got a bit heavier, a bit frumpier, a bit softer than the original car that it replaces, and as a result I think it is less fun. I mean, what we can say about both cars is that what tremendous value for money they are, because both of these cars, they're stylish, they're fun, they're going to be reliable, and you can pick either of these up from, what, £1,000?
We paid £1,000 for this one, just under £1,000. It's not the best example you'll find, but we've had it a couple of years and it hasn't cost us much.
And exactly that, you know, £1,000 buys you potentially a project with a bit of work to do, but nothing that's beyond the reach of, you know, most motoring enthusiasts. And if you don't want to do that, then just nudge the budget up a little bit more, 1,500 to 3 grand.
3 grand, you'd buy something you could really be proud of for either of these.
You're saying the MR2?
Absolutely.
I think I would say the MR2, except there's one other 90s Japanese roadster that I would take home instead, and it's right over there.